Hello, my name is Julian Arndt, and I'm going to be doing my presentation on the Wall Street Journal, Why Bribes Are Still Legal. The general theme of the article is that corruption and politics pretty much go hand in hand. They're almost unavoidable. It's just human that people will use their power for personal gain. So it's important that we as a society can work towards ridding politics of this corruption, because it's not any good for anybody. And the article specifically goes over whether or not receiving campaign donations is corrupt. In a 2016 Supreme Court case, they ruled 8-0 in favor of Governor Robert McDonnell in regards to allegations of quid pro quo corruption. And for those who do not know, quid pro quo is the act of receiving something. It could be money, a gift, anything beneficial, really, with the expectation of returning the favor. In the case of McDonald, he was found to be receiving gifts from a businessman, yet McDonald never reciprocated these gifts other than general courtesies that all politicians typically conduct. So he was found not guilty. So what does the author want the reader to learn? Well, the author wants to educate the reader on the differences between corruption and the general business of democracy. This article is unbiased and is informing the public on how the Supreme Court feels on the matter, and that is that anyone can receive gifts. There's nothing to prevent people from doing this, but under no circumstance can you reciprocate and use your position of power to repay these gifts or favors. If you're found to have conducted yourself unethically, you're liable and should be tried as such. And let's say if an official, for example, was to receive a large donation to their campaign and in turn pushed legislation that clearly benefited the donator, this would be considered a crime. Okay, so my current political figure is Jim Norton. He's a longtime Capitol lobbyist in the state of Arizona, and has recently been indicted with Gary Pierce, the former Arizona Corporation Commission chairman, his wife Sherry Pierce, and George Johnson, owner of Johnson Utilities, on charges that Johnson and Norton conspired to pay Pierce in exchange for his votes. The Pierces received $31,500 unlawfully from a firm directed by Norton. Pierce was also allegedly supposed to receive a plot of land worth over $350,000. The scheme was designed to defraud and deprive the ACC, the customers of Johnson Utilities, and the citizens of the state of Arizona of their right to the honest services of elected members of the ACC through concealment of material information and bribery in exchange for Pierce's favorable votes. I bring up Norton because he was a man who by many of his peers was regarded as a respectable individual. He represented a lot of people and corporations, and he was known for getting results. His actions, if he is to be found guilty, are incredibly unethical and represent the core of the article. That if you corroborate quid pro quo situations, then you should be persecuted. This kind of corruption only benefits those involved and really destroys the fabric of what our country is built on. These actions put people's civil liberties and rights in the back seat for personal gain. All right. So, do I agree with the article? Yes, I see it as ethical to receive gifts from businessmen or donators, whoever, as long as you don't reciprocate their actions in any way other than what is considered just common courtesy. There's no way to prevent people from giving you things in hopes of getting something in return, but as long as you don't let that influence your actions, then I think it's fine. The article also notes that Hillary Clinton is the leader of a movement that uses the narrow definition of quid pro quo corruption to justify limiting campaign contributions and ultimately to have government alone fund political campaigns and advocacy. This would inevitably help incumbents and prevent outsiders from spending to advance their goals or ambitions. I mean, such actions would sacrifice free speech and political competition. So I'm glad to see the Supreme Court has now better defined corruption with the decision regarding Governor McDonnell. I think it's crucial that we as a society recognize and sort out which cases are actually corrupt and ones that are just politicized. So I believe the court's decision not only affects my classmates and my generation, but everyone who lives in the U.S. I mean, with a more clearly defined definition of corruption, we can now more easily recognize and rectify such cases. Hopefully our generation doesn't fall into the same pitfalls that affected many before ours. Political corruption is common in every society, past and present. So just being more aware and prepared, we can hopefully mitigate the possible outcomes of corruption. So how does it affect me? Well, personally, I'm pleased to hear the Supreme Court is being vigilant and thorough in their decisions regarding quid pro quo, and that they see it as a high priority to rid politics of corrupt officials. Professionally, wanting to enter the public sector, I see this as only beneficial, that dishonest and corrupt officials will get what is rightly deserved. It's upsetting to think people are selfish enough to put their personal needs and greed over the lives of their constituents, friends, family, even though it's virtually an unattainable goal. Hopefully one day the political arena can be rid of all corruption.